Hi, it's me again, back in BC. This video I'm going to do is to give a little bit more of understanding of my understanding of what's going on with those induction motor or magnet motor or three-phase DC magnet motor. I think we have quite a bit of misunderstanding. And to make a stator turn, it had to be a very strong radio frequency. It had to be at least an RF. RF, when you look at the signal RF, is exact fingerprint of the signal of AC currents. I think what's happening with Tesla, it was very simple. He discovered the frequency of the Earth, and we all know that because he talked about that a lot. The Earth was oscillating roughly between 12 and 13 hertz. To be able to find that's meaning he had to be able to tap into the natural RF signal from the Earth. And of course he was, because he was building all kinds of antenna and coils. And that's what's happening. Everybody think about the Tesla towers. It was a transmitting towers. It was the biggest joke I've ever heard. You cannot transmit with 60 tons of copper. The top of his tower had 60 tons of copper. You can only receive. He was not receiving any communication there because it was not even invented yet. So it was receiving natural frequency, natural RF, which this planet controlled gravity, control the way you stand, the way you live, the way you eat, the way you light. It controls everything. It's one of the largest family of the radio frequency, and we have other family and other type of radio frequency, which I will go down later. But I just want to show you how the music, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to hear it. All I'm going to do is put the power to. Okay, you heard that? That motor had nothing, absolutely nothing in it. And I challenge any RC player out there to take one of those parts, the top, the decoupled parts, and the only thing goes from those wires is the wire of the stator. It's got nothing else there to make music. And when you remove the drum out of it, you put the power back into it, and there's no sound coming in. So those magnets, they're the one who are actually vibrating at high pitch. Now, this little piece of the controller, they call, this is literally a radio transmitter. The DC power comes into it, which is, DC power, straight current, and this turns into a radio transmitter. And that's why the radio transmitter, you can send two frequencies slightly apart to be able to turn those motors, very fast. And then this is the speed control, and that controls your output of voltage. So that's mean when you start the motor, well, I will start again just to show you. And there is already. And that's simple. All I'm doing right now, I'm varying the volt going in. And the timing, because higher volt, faster timing. And that's how those motor works, on radio frequency, not amp. With the controller can push out an amp, but more likely, if they're wind up properly, they only runs on volt with milliamp. They're the most efficient and torquey motor in this planet, and I don't know why those motors not being used everywhere. So we have to understand how the element work, how the element have to be named, when they were named, when they were discovered, which is very important, because today they mean something else, and that's why you can't, you say the phrase, but the action and the phrase do not match, because the phrase should give you what the action is going to be, and it doesn't do that anymore. And that's the reason the big Tesla mystery was never found, because people were still looking for AC electricity, and it's not electricity, it's AC It's an RF wave, which they call AC. Now, it's an artificial wave because Tesla had to use mechanical device to achieve that. But by doing that, he was able to sell the patent of the device to Westinghouse and how this recipe to do all that. And that's why we're paying for AC currents, which is actually RF currents, but is man-made through power dam and stuff like this. Now, knowing what I know today, bipolar generator is another bogus word. This is actually not a generator. It is a generator, but not making AC electricity. This make RF frequency. It's a frequency generator. This is the generator. You never burn fuse. Always run. You overload it, and the maximum overloading, what's happening? The motor, it can't produce anymore, so your voltage start to drop as you're putting the load on. But it never burn fuses, those generators. It's very simple because they don't make electricity. Electricity would have burned a fuse right away. They're running on RF frequency. That's the only explanation. It takes about 300 watts to run that. I'm producing 1500 watts. I should be able to still extract 1000 watts, and everything is still running by itself. This is like a small generator for an RV or whatever, and that's just a prototype. You have to understand things will change dramatically when we're talking to company and Asia right now. They can build those motors for us in any shape, any size we want, from 15,000 horse to to micro horse. So I mean, like, now we're actually talking to people who actually understand. They've been building those motors for a long times, but no one ever sees them unless you start taking things apart. So they'll hide it. Also, you can actually create a high voltage generator, and the nice thing about high voltage, when you jump the volt, is the resistance goes away. Especially when you create an RF current at high potential, that's mean high voltage, the resistance of making it goes away. It's almost like it takes the resistance and transport it and turn it into currents. And I want to see if I can bring 15,000 volts at 3 poles out of those stators, and then dump that directly into a pole transformer, like a 15 k's or 20 k's. And I guarantee, I'm absolutely sure a generator that size can power 25 k's transformer to supply for a full house or farm whatsoever, just with that in a transformer. And they all have the same problem when they change the meter, the power meter. Everybody, suddenly their hydro went from 40% more, some up to 100% more, double, right? So I mean, a lot of people, they can't understand, and I start to explain a little bit, what's going on, and more people actually, get it now, and it could be stopped because literally on the top of your bill in BC anyway, it says service for single phase. Right? This contract is for the service of single phase. Well, single phase is you have to pay for one wire, not two. Right? The old system, the old meter was reading on the highest draw wire, line 1 or line 2. He was flipping back and forth, but he was only calculated on the highest draw. Now the smart meter, charge you for both. They calculate the maximum on both, and then that's what they add together, and that's what you get charged for, which is illegal. People should just take that to court because they can't win with that. It's a fraud, right? But anyway, people want to pay the price. You keep your mouth shut and you pay the price. It's the bottom line.
You've run into people, Gerard, that understand exactly what you're doing. As soon as you started saying RF, people started coming out of the woods and saying, yes, that's exactly right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, as soon as I mentioned the RF signal, I mean, it's very simple. Look at RF signal and look at the AC signal, the perfect fingerprint. You cannot having two names for one signal, right? I mean, like, it's that simple. I mean, I don't care how good you are, you can only suck or blow. You cannot do both at the same time. So, which one is it? AC current or RF current? I think RF was here before we existed, so I would go with RF currents. But the AC currents, since it's man-made, That's probably why they can call like this, because it's patentable, because it's manufactured with equipment, it's mechanical, induced. So, but I like to stick just with a straight RF. Is way more, is less. Put it this way, it's a natural frequency. If we wouldn't have RF frequency, we will not exist. Our whole existence is built on RF frequency. It's millions of frequency in RF. It's a very large family. And some I don't even know. I mean, I'm only scratching the surface. Actually, I'm scratching right at the Earth's surface, because the frequency we had was literally not invent, but discover at the Earth's surface frequency. So that's how, like, I'm starting to understand a whole lot more. Even when I'm reading, Tesla's literature, and some of the Tesla literature is terrible because it's been translated so many ways, it doesn't make any sense. But now, he never taught, he always says, you have to understand frequency. Now, it was right in our face all along. Yes, we have to understand frequency and how frequency react with element. Because frequency, a certain frequency will react better with copper, iron, aluminum, stainless steel. Those are elements. And also, if you want to really understand, you got to understand your element. At least a basic of the element, so you can refer yourself into the element and see how can he does that. How can he react? Right? It's like a magnet. A magnet is just a flow of they call it electron, but I don't call it electron. I call it megatron and positron. Because the two different polarity, and they flow, constantly the same in the same circle, right? So that would make more sense than electron. Electron is too big. The molecule is too big. Electron love iron. I mean, iron is one of the biggest part, because when it's mixed with iron, then they split, and megatron and neutron come in line. So, but anyway.
A number of videos, though, Gerard, you've been talking about this self-looping, self-running motor fed into the generator, which then again powers.
Correct.
But your understanding now with the radio frequency is it changed the way you've designed this?
Yeah, because now you can actually create an antenna to receive the same system, the mechanical. If you don't have room for mechanical or stuff, you can actually have an antenna. Now it's very simple. The volume of volt, right? Volume of volt. The volt equal mass and weight. Mass and weight, this means I have a tiny little antenna. It's got about maybe half a pound of copper in the air, 10 feet off the air. It gives me 1.3 volts constantly AC. So, and then if my truck, it weighs 5,200 pounds. When I go and play on the river and I need the power line, my truck charges itself of 740 volts AC. Believe me, it's a shocker when you grab the handle. It discharged instantly. It became like a massive caps. So, knowing that, I did a test with a smaller vehicle. It was about almost half the weight of my vehicle. And the volt dropped down to 300 volts. So that's when I understand the mass of iron makes a big difference. That's my Suburban. It's a 1978. I have no plastic. It's all metal. And the other pickup truck is half plastic. Literally half of my weight. So mass instantly came to mind. It makes a difference. And then when mass came to mind, I came to mind with mass, and I said, that would make sense why Tesla has 60 tons of copper on the top of them. There was that big tower. It was a receiving tower, not a transmitting. Because you can't transmit with mass, it takes too much energy. Right? So I mean, like, no, it makes all sense now. I mean, by modulate what comes out from the tower at high voltage, high frequency, you put it through the frequency through a rectifier, high voltage rectifier, and then you put it through either mechanical system or an electronic system to put either a square wave or an impulse into it, and you pound that into a transformer, and you have all the power you want continuously. And it's not an if, just go get yourself a couple of pounds of copper wire and stick it up in the air in 10 feet and bring a little wire from it in the ground and put a voltmeter in between. I mean, I'm not making it, you know, as simple as that. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to do that.
And as much as you're not holding back any information, that's why you're making these videos and you're trying to be very open and sharing everything with people, because you're open sourcing it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
you're the least from the greediest person I've ever met.
I'm not holding the secret. I just told you guys what is Tesla's secret, which has been, they've been searching for that for at least 120 years. What this Tesla was doing, where he was getting his power, because he understand, I don't know if he understand or trip over, whatever, that's, you know, I was not there, okay, that's 150 years ago almost, I was not there, but he understand the frequency of this planet was humongous, and the frequency as you go away from the planet, get the oscillation get faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, all the way up to infinity almost. So that's how much frequency in RF we have. We have a very efficient way now to be able to produce a massive amount of energy. Motor move vehicle, they don't have to charge batteries, they can produce their own powers, you know, and they're the cheapest motor on Earth. I don't know about other planet because I don't travel much, but on Earth, they're the cheapest motor to produce. They cost a fraction of the cost than making this motor here. It used to be a three-phase motor. It was, I think, a 2.5 horse three-phase motor before someone burned it. So I mean, this motor sells for roughly around about $500 brand new. This motor brand new sells for probably about maybe $55 brand new. And this motor have 100 times the torque of this motor. So I mean, like, who are we kidding here? Like, really?
So now you're obviously you've had it running and different things like that, but it's not at the point where you want it. But maybe you can explain to people why it's not there quite yet, because you've had some delays.
It's very simple. It's like pushing this big boulder up a hill every time we talk to company, because we have company hand to hand, excellent controller. I mean, very good controller, but they don't supply you the sensor. So they give you the name and a number of the sensor. You know, and so we can't find the sensor anywhere. We can only find the same brand sensor, but a little bit higher volt, not the voltage they require. And this, they told us on the telephone and on paper. The controller will not run with any other sensor but that number. So, okay, we're going to go and buy it. We can't find it. No one carry it. Oh, because it's not it's a commercial item, not a private. So you have to be a corporation to purchase those damn sensors. I had to go through a friend of mine's corporation so we can order some sensors. I can actually run this thing with this controller.
So all this education, all this research basically you've had, it's brought you to a point where you've figured out exactly how this is all working and exactly how the research is going to go forward. And when you found that, we find it very interesting that as soon as you go to talk to people, that's the hardest thing to get, is the thing that may exactly be the secret, right?
Oh yeah, because like they seem to be like they sure like your money, because they never bitch about when you give you a bill of $1,000 and you pay it right away, right? So I mean, like, you know, but soon you ask them, oh yeah, you can do that, but they never send you how to connect the sensor and what position and what's the air gap between the magnet. No information whatsoever. So, but it helped a lot, you know. I struggled for almost 2 years now, try to put my finger on why I can push 60,000 volts through me, light up, burn fluorescent through my hand, and not be dead. And that was a question I've been asking. I've been hit many times with lots of voltage, and voltage would aim from 240 all the way up to 360 AC, and believe me, they hurt and they burn. So I mean, like, you know, I was wondering why only get a zap which doesn't leave any mark but shake you like crazy, and no side effect after a few minutes. And it didn't make sense. It was electricity, because electricity would burn me. Electricity would burn flesh. But radio wave on a lower level doesn't. No, we can really have some fun if people just treat this frequency as an RF frequency and run with it. RF frequency is the most powerful. When people said, oh, around you is heater, around you is dark matters, around you is this, around you is very simple, is RF frequency. You're swimming in a sea of RF frequency. And this frequency controls this planet, control what lives, what dies, what stands, you know, our life, the way we look, everything. You know, it controls everything. You remove that frequency and we just, nothing exists, because everything have to have a frequency. I mean, each cell of your body, you know, vibrating a frequency. So, and there's another thing about frequency. If you remember that little pump I had in my table here,
washing machine pump?
My washing machine pump, which I'm going to reach and get one just like it. Those are not bipolar. They're not bipolar, period. They're an RF frequency generator. You're spinning a north-south magnet between two iron bars with the coil over. This is a radio frequency. You can literally transmit this frequency and shooting anywhere you want an antenna. But what I find out is when you throw this radio frequency into a transformer, a couple of up transformer, and you put a spark gap, you reach the oscillation of 1.8, sometimes all the way up to 7 kilohertz. Very high with a spark gap. And then when you're into that range, well, guess what happened? Heater start to appear, and that's what the magic gets. The frequency excite the molecule of the atom, or whatever you want to call it at that point in time, enough, then we have a reaction. It's a trigger. So the frequency level, it's a trigger to be able to produce heater. Heater have so much power because when it comes to this parallel, is on its expansion, because it comes from a vacuum which is extremely cold. So when the energy comes into a warmer world, it'll expand before it dies. So that's why it's a very powerful. It's not like an energy was created with heat and then die as we try to use it and die before we use it. That's an artificial energy. It dies as we have to keep constantly put energy into it to be able to keep it feeding. But heater, it doesn't. You just create, you know, the frequency, it opens the door and it comes in. All right, I'm going to show you a little demonstration of RF, how it works. As you see, my meter is set for 100 volts, and that's what RF is. It picks up 1 volt, 100 volt, and RF in the line right now just by standing beside. Now, what I'm going to do is on those tiny little motor here, the little fan motor, 110. I'm going to start this one directly from my plug in my fridge, but this one is not touching. I can see I put a piece of cardboard, right? And I'm putting against a piece of cardboard. I'm going to show you a transfer, RF frequency transfer into this motor, but this motor won't turn. This motor will be just like a transformer. It will give me volts because it will be transferred with RF frequency. Now let's go and plug that up. Automatically I got 10 volts. And it's nothing is connected anywhere else.
This one's spinning.
This one is spinning. The other one is not. And now we're getting 10 volts. 9.9 to 10 volts. AC.
And where we should show them.
No, there's no connection here.
Go from over here.
There's no connection anywhere. Go behind. Go behind. Right? It's not connected. One is plugged to the stove to 120, and the other one is not turning. It's not playing. I just put my meter on it. Now watch that. Not just the volt is transfer. Right? If it was just the volt, I can say maybe static current. Watch that. The hertz is also transfer. 60 hertz.
Wow.
So I mean, like, you know, what I can tell you, if that's not a radio transfer, I don't know what a radio transfer is, you know. If I can transfer the hertz through this with no connection. It have to be radio frequency transfer.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, pretty simple. No, I mean, like, you know, you can do test over and over and over, but I mean, like, you know, when you see something like this, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. It's no longer AC currents. That's radio frequency. You know. Demonstration of a induction stove. Right? Everybody, you know. Actually, I got one in the lab. I pick up a whole top of the induction stove.
Oh yeah.
Induction stove is so simple. It's a Tesla transmitting tower, but for energy. The coil underneath the pad, it's just a big copper wire wrap around and come back in the center of the loop. And what it does, when you put a pot, it have to be iron in it. If it doesn't have any iron in it, it won't not work. So that's why when you buy pot for induction, you know, they recommend pot. Iron pot will do. Any iron part, pure iron pan will do perfectly. When you put that over the antenna, well, the antenna is sending a very high potential and frequency right into the iron molecule, and the iron molecules start to vibrate. And as they vibrate, they get hot really fast. Matter of fact, you can boil water in an iron pan and an induction stove in 3.7 seconds. That's as fast. It's about as fast as a car can get for 60 miles, right?
So you can see, no pun intended, you can see the potential for so many things based on this understanding.
Exactly, but we've been using it, and it's been all
right in front of your face.
The corporation are hiding it. I have to take stuff apart to get parts and then start spinning it to see what kind of results I got of that. Why those corporations doesn't come out and say, hey, we have a new way to do this, it's much cheaper. No, it's always, hey, we have a new way, oh, by the way, it's 5 times the price. But the cost of manufacturing dropped down by almost 80%. It's the greed of the corporation who do not want this technology to go out. And anybody who think different at that point in time, or at least do not have the mentality to stop and then just grasp what you have in your hand and start seeing how it really works. Because most people today, believe me or not, they drive $100,000 car, but they don't know a clue what's underneath the hood, right? And we've been like this all our life. I mean, I'm no different. I use some stuff sometimes. I don't know how it works inside. I just use it because it gave me something, right? I mean, like, you know, but when something doesn't make sense to me, when logic is not applied, for therefore is a lie. Because if you don't use logic, that means you want to, you want to hide something. So you're going to lie to hide something. And the reason we've been living into a lie, and every year we have a new lie on the top, because they can only cover a lie with a bigger lie. But now the lie it came to a point, I used to be, it was the epitome of lie. It was the biggest lie you can ever. Now they have the apocalypse of lie, which they cannot. Most people now they're discovering they've been lying all their life. And see things really work differently than what we know, and that's all I'm trying to tell people. Don't look at things the way we've been told how to look at it. Walk around looking at a different angle, and sometimes just a different angle you will see something you miss. Now here is a 60-volt motor.
The pancake one?
The pancake motor. It's a 60 volt and it's 500 watts. Now, I'm not going to push 500 watts on it. 500 watts is 5 amp. But look at that. Look at it turning. 0 volt, a quarter of a volt, and it's turning already. And I'm not going to push any amp into it. At 23 volt, I'm already to the maximum of his RPM on normal operation, and that's a 60 volt motor. Now I'm pushing less the 100 watts. Now, This motor is probably turning roughly around 50,000 RPM and I'm only 49 volts. Now I'm going to reduce it to 3.5 volt. There we go. Try to stop it.
Oh wait, let me zoom out here. Holy crap. Aye.
You can't stop them at 3.5 volts.
Wow.
If you change the power supply going to those DC motor, this power supply is unbelievable. I like to tell people to buy one, you know, because this power supply here is very not that great of a power supply. It produces too much amp, it's pushing too much amp and not enough volts. And it's brand new, it's $300 some, but this one here is actually the one you want to play with. I mean, how can it be possible? 3.5 volt. Ouch, I can't stop it.
Yeah, that's real difficult. The friction when you get down
It's
there is incredible.
unbelievable. How can you have something at 3 point make any power in that size, okay? So we'll stop that one. Now we'll go with a really cheap motor. Of course, they're all made in China, but that one is a 24 volt, 300 watt output or 300 watt input. Let's see now what we do with this one. Okay, now again you will see, right, his reading. Now I'm gonna keep it at 0.75 of a volt if I can get it. It's pretty touchy because I don't have a fine tuning on that one.
There you go.
See, that's 0.5, and I can stall it, but I have to really hold on to it, right? Now I'm going to bring it up to 1.5 volt.
No chance.
Now you can't stop it. They'll rip the skin out of my hand, or the motor will spin. Now, how can I have so much power with so little volts? That's a question for all the smart people out there. You know? This is a 24 volt motor, DC motor. By putting 1.5 volt DC into it, and I'm getting that much power.
And you're not saying it's unexplained?
Well, normally you should be able to put your finger and install the motor. But for some reason, some of the compartments make a different DC volt. This DC volt, you know, it's totally different than this one. This one, I won't, you know, the amp, this one, the amp crank right up. And that's another thing I want to show you. Look, the amp should be cranking up double the voltage because I'm putting a lot of resistance into it. My fingers are hurting. And that's normal. But at high speed you can't crank the amp because you can't slow it down. It just doesn't really, I mean, and then again, now you want to, that's a 4-brush system, that motor. Now at 24 volts, which would be is normal speed, at full speed. Now, this motor right now is probably producing roughly around about 15 horse on the shaft. And it's only running at 1.5 amp. It's all on the delivery of the energy into the unit. This one here, I still have to do some tests on it to see what, I have to have an oscilloscope, a very good oscilloscope, to really do some tests on that one to see what's coming out of that one, because this machine makes the motor run so smooth compared to all the other ones. It's got a maximum of 61 volt out of it. And your motor doesn't heat up.
Not heating up?
Nothing at all. Runs smooth. And if I plug a 24 volt battery to it and let it run for more than a few minutes, the motor will get hot. Same thing with this one.
Say that last part again?
If I put 24 volt battery into that motor, which is a 24 volt motor, and let it run for 5 minutes, the motor will get really hot. Same thing with the other one, the motor will get really hot. But with this machine here, it doesn't. And I'm getting tons of power out of the shaft. So that's probably one of the best 500 bucks I've spent. That's how much we paid for that, 500 bucks?
It was 400, essentially 350, but after tax.
Yeah. So I mean, like, you know. And to be able to start a motor in less than a volt, come on. But this brand here is definitely worth the money compared to this little guy here, and it's all over the place. The current goes all over the place. You can take a good shot of the brand, so they know if they want to find one of those, get a good shot. You have enough light there. There you go.
Yeah.
One not to buy. And I'm going to be purchasing another one of those, which is 120 volt output, and I'm going to ask the company if they can make a 600 volt output one, because that's what we want. It's voltage. I'm tired of listening to amperage is the horse. Never mind that. We're not running a horse through the wire. We're running frequency. So exactly. I want some volts.
You want some volts.
I want some volts. So I mean, like, you know, anything, same thing. Every motor I want to run, including a car, boat, whatever, they're all going to run at 600 volts. It's the most economical way to run, the most efficiency, the coolness of your motor. Your stator doesn't heat up. They don't heat up. The insulation doesn't get hole, don't crack, and you have no failure. So it makes everything runs cooler, longer, and less wear and tear and repair. So I mean, it might not be the best concept of the world, but it sure beats, you know, paying from the pole.
Essentially, that's the whole purpose.
Exactly. And then it sure beats pulling out the tank every 360 kilometers, 400 kilometers.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice to just keep going?
Yeah, till the wheels falls off, you know. I mean, like, you know,
we're getting
talking about enjoying traveling. And now you can literally enjoy traveling. You don't have to budget $3,000 worth of gas, so I can go, you know, camping.
Yeah.
Here's another little test we're doing. Okay, just to show people, you know, those Outrunner, they're actually a radio frequency motor. Now you heard the little beep, and what I'm going to make it again, the motor make the little beep, so I want you guys to really listen to the motor. Right? All I'm going to do now is put the power into it. Now see, you hear the motor? Alright. Now we'll disconnect that. Now we're going to plug, where I plug the motor to turn it, to two speaker for my surrounded sound. Now this guy is crazy. Right? He's seeing,
all experiments.
He's seeing things and he's on bad drug. Right? Now I want you to listen to those speakers very carefully. On both sides of the speaker, this is a perfect tune. So if it does not radio frequency we're sending to the speaker on a wave sign, I don't know what it is. You know, it's this, if you distortion, static, do not play musical note at perfect, you know, it's just crazy. It's very simple. Those goddamn motor, they runs on radio frequency. Now, is anybody out there prove me wrong? I'd like to see that. There it is. Outrunner for plane. Runs perfectly with frequency. Radio frequency. There we go. So now we just came back from the stove, and more a little bit of explanation of what what we're fighting for. What I'm fighting for actually is to more likely show people how big the lie is when it comes to large corporation and government. I mean, it doesn't stop. I mean, you ever heard the government say, "Trust me," right? And what happened after they say that? They fuck you up. It's that simple. Every time the government said, "Trust me," that's the last time I'm going to trust that person. I'll be running away as far as I can and as fast as I can, because this guy is preparing to do something to me. Trust me, right? That's why I don't want anybody even to trust me. I don't even trust myself, because I repeat all my experience dozens of times. Even when I feel bored, I have nothing to do, I will repeat an old experiment just to see, to confirm it's going to give me the same results. And that's the only way I can come out with a firm and logical decision on what what my test was. And to be able to say, okay, if you can do this that way, it will give you this as a result. And a lot of people out there, they do some tests, but they go into their own world and modify what I've been doing, and they don't have the same results. Well, of course, you didn't do the same test. It's that simple. You can't make an apple pie with peaches. It's that simple, right?
It's very specific, which
it's
is why
very
you're doing
specific.
research.
It's like a recipe. You can't change the recipe. Everything is a balance of the elements. If you change that balance, then you get something else. That's the output of it. But to go back into what I've been doing, well, I removed the doubt now. If anybody out there who want to put a lab together, it's an RF frequency lab research center they want to open. Nothing else right now, because this is what controls the world. It gives you life, it takes your life. It gives you comfort, it takes your comfort away. But that's what controls the world. It doesn't. You don't need anything else to research. So if you want to research energy, research RF frequency, and you will find all the energy and hide it into it. And when you find the recipe, you can't miss it. It's just like making eggs and bacon in the morning. After you made it 1,000 times, you can do it blind, right? So I mean, like, this is what I'm trying to tell people. Now, the equipment, if you're going to go out and buy equipment to buy an RF, well, be prepared. They're expensive. For the common reason is they're RF resistant, so they can actually give you a reading. And a lot of people, they have different word, RMS resistant or RMS proof, right? That's mean they are radio frequency resistant. It doesn't matter. It's have to be resistant. That's when my voltmeter has been lasting so long with what I do and cranking up and going all over the place. It's a miracle that things still work. But if you have good equipment, they last a long time. If you go and buy yourself an oscilloscope, it's not RF resistant. If you pay $1,200, you just flush $1,200 in the toilet, because it ain't good for you at all. It will give you a wrong reading. So just a little heads up there for all the people who just want to go and start working with RF. Now, since we know it's RF frequency generator, we have not electrical generator. We're not producing electricity. It's a frequency. It's a radio frequency, not electricity.
There's a lot of people out there though that really understand a lot about what was written about Tesla, what he wrote, and all that stuff. But you would be telling them, take what you're saying there and apply it to what was said, and things will open up the doors like they've opened up for you.
Absolutely. Now you can actually, if you put RF in your head and read all the Tesla document you have, right, and keep in mind, remove the word electricity, suddenly everything he says makes sense. Because he's not talking, he always says oscillated. You have to have oscillation. Well, it's an old word for frequency, right? We have to understand this guy was talking 100 some years ago. Today, the same word that we're using over there, you know, doesn't have the same meaning because our stupid society removed the true meaning of the word and changed it so we can't find nothing with that word. It's just a dumb word the politician use because, you know, a politician can speak 24/7 and never say one thing, but their mouth and their jaw and their tongue will be flopping for 24/7, and they will be talking, in the end of that, they will not say a damn thing because they're talking in circle, no meaning what they're talking, because the word they're using have actually no motion. Because the truth is so deep, it's hidden so deep, you know, it's almost scary at that point in time. And now the truth, the cat is out of the bag, you know, I don't know what's going to happen next. If it's something happen, but I'm pretty sure it will be somebody out there who knows about RF, and then will be able to connect the dot and make the picture. Because right now that's all he's got to do is connect the dot. I give him all the dots. All you got to do is start by 1 point to 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and you will have something working. I mean, it's very simple. The system can be built many ways. I will show you down the road, you know, how to build antenna, what's the result of the antenna, and all that. You know, as the lab, we've pretty much finished in the lab right now, and I'm trying to get something working in my place also. I got to move out of here, moving in a bigger place, so I can actually have my own little lab going and doing my tests instead of doing that in my living room. So, but that's as far as I am right now. Is you know, it's. Electricity is not what we think it is. So just on that note, just think about that for a few minutes before you go to bed tonight. You gotta have a good night.
The Secrets Hidden in the Pyramids of Egypt, Part 1. The idea that civilizations progress from a primitive state to a more advanced one is a fallacy that evolutionists try to apply to history. If one abandons evolutionist nonsense and prejudice and looks at the historical references and findings with an unbiased mind, what one encounters is civilizations that used highly advanced technologies. Remains left from ancient Egypt, the Mayans, and the Sumerians indicate the branches of science such as electricity, electrochemistry, electromagnetics, metallurgy, hydrogeology, medicine, chemistry, and physics were used to a considerable extent. Electricity was efficiently generated and widely utilized in ancient Egypt. The Baghdad battery and the first arc lights were used at that time. But was electrical generation limited to these in ancient Egypt? A careful examination of Egyptian history immediately reveals the sophistication in perfect illumination. No soot has been found in the corridors of the pyramids or the tombs of the kings, because these areas were lit using electricity. Relief carvings show that the Egyptians used handheld torches powered by cable-free power sources. The arc lamp used in the lighthouse of Alexandria is further proof that electricity was used in ancient Egypt. The energy required to power the lighthouse of Alexandria for 24 hours a day could only have been supplied by a regular electrical source. The pyramids of Egypt were giant power plants generating electricity. 1. The outer casing of the Great Pyramid was covered with white tufa limestone, so tightly built that not even a razor blade could fit between the blocks. The white tufa limestone does not contain magnesium and has high insulating properties. This insulation property prevented the electricity inside the pyramid from being released without control. 2. The stone blocks used inside the pyramid were made of another form of limestone, containing crystal and a small amount of metal, which allow for maximum power transmission. The shafts inside the pyramid were lined with granite. Granite is a slightly radioactive substance and permits the ionization of the air inside these shafts. When we look at an insulated electric cable, we see that conductive and insulation materials are used in the same way as in the pyramids. 3. The conductive and insulating properties of the pyramid are an example of flawless engineering. However, a source of energy is needed for electricity generation. The Giza Plateau where the pyramids stand is full of underground water channels. The pyramids rise above the limestone layers, the spaces between them being full of water. These special layers of rock that transmit electricity upward as they carry underground water to the surface are known as aquifers. The high volume flow of the River Nile that passes through these aquifers produces an electric current. This is known as physioelectricity. The pyramid's underground chambers are granite conductors built within the rock charged with physioelectricity. This electric current is conducted directly to the upper part of the pyramid's granite, covered subterranean chambers. Granite is a very good conductor of electricity. The electromagnetic field that forms at the bottom of the pyramid is transmitted in concentrated form to the upper layers of the pyramid. On the top of the pyramid there was a gold capstone, gold being an excellent conductor of electricity. This section is no longer there in our day. This means the top of the pyramid has lost its structure of flawless geometry. This gold capstone facilitated a conductive path for the transfer of negative ions to the ionosphere. This way, a current was generated. How does it serve to move the electromagnetic field on the ground through the help of an aquifer? An identical form of this technology, employed in Egypt 5,000 years ago, was used by Nikola Tesla, an inventor of electric technology in the early 1900s, in a tower he constructed in the United States of America. Tesla, the inventor of such fundamental electric technology as the alternating current, electric engine, radio, the laser, and radar, was successful in simultaneously transmitting sound and pictures between continents in the Wardenclyffe Tower he built between 1901 and 1917. He used an external source of electricity for this, and even applied wireless power transmission technology. Tesla had also built his tower above an aquifer and discharged the negative ions from the aquifer to the tower. The electromagnetic technology used in Tesla's famous tower is identical to the electromagnetic field set up in the construction of the pyramids. Both systems generate negative ions and transmit them without the need for electric cables. So for what purpose did the Egyptians use electricity? Relief carvings clearly show that the Egyptians used handheld bulb-type lamps powered by a cable-free electric source. These bulbs are reminiscent of Nikola Tesla's descriptions to show that his alternating current was safe. At the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, Tesla transmitted alternating electric current through his body to light a bulb he held in his hand without using electric cables. This relief carving shows a wireless antenna. The Egyptians used the antenna and cable-free energy for wireless communication. And the relief on the left is a carved transmitter with a receiver on the left. This evidence indicates that the Egyptians used free wireless energy for communication purposes. This relief carving shows a yarn manufacturing facility. The yarn Egyptians used for their fabrics at that time were as fine as those manufactured by machinery today. The Egyptians also used electric power in their weaving plants. It was seen that many gold objects which have remained from ancient Egypt were in fact very finely gold-plated. Such perfect gold plating as in these pieces requires the use of electricity. The total electromagnetic measurement made around the Great Pyramid is identical to that made during a thunderstorm with lightning. There's a powerful electromagnetic field around the Great Pyramid. This may be observed through a simple experiment when standing at the top of the pyramid with a bottle wrapped in a damp cloth. Sparks fly away from the bottle as if one were on top of a high-voltage bobbin. The pyramids were not used as tombs. The pyramids have always been interpreted as the tombs of the pharaohs, but in fact no inscriptions of any kind appear in the corridors of the Great Pyramid. This suggests a functional building rather than a mausoleum. An empty stone chest was found on the central axis of the pyramid that archaeologists call the King's Chamber. They claimed that this contained the coffin of the pharaoh, but that, since this had been stolen, it was now empty. But the examination of the dimensions of the stone chest and the special location in which it was installed reveals a different state of affairs. That point is just where the missing part of the pyramid's conductive structure and whole design suggests it should be. If a superconductive material was installed here, the pyramid could manufacture enough electricity for all of Egypt. This superconductor is thought to have been the Ark of the Covenant, which was known to have been in Egypt in ancient times, and whose dimensions are just right to fit inside the stone chest. The prophet Moses, peace be upon him, was adopted by Pharaoh, and according to historic records, was raised as an administrator because of his superior moral values, intelligence, and abilities. One of the phases in leadership training in ancient Egypt was the teaching of all the secrets of Egypt and the knowledge of energy. In addition to its other properties, there are also various references to the Ark of the Covenant serving as a capacitor, and that this was the source of Egypt's energy. The prophet Moses, peace be upon him, is known to have taken the Ark of the Covenant with him when he fled Egypt. According to historic references, one of the reasons why Pharaoh chased the prophet Moses, peace be upon him, right up to the last moment, and strove to catch him at whatever price, was the Ark of the Covenant, because Pharaoh was aware that all the glory and magnificence of Egypt would be lost without electricity. Historic references also show that Egyptian civilization reached its peak during the reign of Ramses II, who lived at the same time as the prophet Moses, peace be upon him. But those civilizations collapsed in less than 10 years after Ramses II, and Giza was even abandoned. The city, once the center of civilization, remained deserted until the next dynasty settled there. Were the Egyptians the only society to utilize wireless electrical technology? The relief carvings left by the Mayan and Assyrians also contain images of similar techniques to those implied in the pyramids. All this information once again goes to demonstrate that there were no primitive people and societies in the past, as evolutionists would have us believe. In terms of civilization, more or less developed communities have lived side by side at all times throughout history. A society that existed thousands of years ago enjoyed a far more advanced technology compared to one living in the 20th century. And this shows us that development is not part of an evolutionary process. In other words, that there is no linear advancement from a primitive level of civilization to a more developed one in history.